What's up, everybody? Happy new moon in Taurus. So, we're finna get ready to break down these astrological energies right now because there's a lot going on centered around this new moon in Taurus. So, the new moon in Taurus is happening on the 27th of April at 7 degrees, okay? And it will have the asteroids Isis and the asteroid Circe conjunct. Now, the thing that is very interesting about this new moon in Taurus, right? It's almost like a lot of Taurus energies aren't really getting a break. They're kind of being mixed in with a lot of other energies. Also, happy birthday to all my Tauruses out there as well. What I mean by this, we have a fixed cross happening right now. So we have the sun and the moon in Taurus right now. We have the Lilith, which is currently in Scorpio right now. We have Mars, who is currently in Leo right now, opposing Pluto in Aquarius. So for those of you who don't really, aren't real versed in astrology, a fixed cross, it deals with you having this high level of, navigation and sensory alertness, all right? And on the lower end, it can feel like being stuck, all right? Like just stagnant, just like stand. And I also want to bring to mind that Saturn is at 27 degrees Pisces, all right? So he has about 4 more degrees until he's done with Pisces, and we're wrapping it. This is the 12th house. So when Saturn leaves Pisces and it gets into Aries, there's a whole brand new you that's showing. I want to also keep in mind that we just had a Aries eclipse that just ended a lot of energy. We just had a Libra full moon that brought a lot of people into balance, right? Let's keep all that in mind as I break down this Taurus energy. So I highly advise anyone to go look into the mythologies of Isis and Circe, because that'll help you kind of digest this information a lot easier. But to sum it up, it deals with, spiritual protection, spiritual boundaries, spiritual knowledge. Taurus activates the second house. Taurus is all about stability, longevity, financial security, material security. It's about keeping things stable when we're in Taurus. I personally love Taurus energy because it's just where you get to enjoy more stability and leisure in your life. I think that's on the table for a lot of people as well right now. There's so much you've been through, there's so much you've had to go through. You're at a place where you have successfully protected your longevity, your long-term goals. You've achieved them in this moment right now, and this is a new moon to help you recognize that, so that when you're moving forward, you realize that you've really closed out a lot of chapters for a lot of you out there. Now, another thing on the more serious note, Isis and Circe deal with spiritual protection. There was a level of spiritual knowledge that both of these feminine archetypes had that allowed them to protect themselves and to protect their values, protect their assets, to protect their self-worth even. So that brings us into the next opposition, where we have it to Lilith, the asteroid Lilith, the asteroid Apollyon, and the asteroid Hecate, and the asteroid Rhadamanthus in Scorpio, activating the 8th house, which rules the occult and hidden knowledge. So I feel like we're already in this like occult energy, although this is Taurus season, right? It's like, come on, let's get to the greenery, to the nature, to the planet. Let's focus on like things that are gonna sustain us and ground us. There is this undeniable energy of like darkness and like the occult. We got movies out here right now that has everyone speaking on just like occult energies and occult things. What I mean by occult energy, because it's a vague, title, it's just things that are in the dark. Things are dealing with, things that are not common to the masses now being exposed, whether this is certain spiritual abilities that people have or that they've been utilizing personally or collectively. So remind yourself, keep yourself grounded right now, especially if you've done that work, despite any type of repressed energy that's showing back up in your life, because there's something showing back up that maybe you overcome that you gotta just dead again. Whether this is a mindset, whether this is an emotional reaction to a certain experience showing back up, or a person, place, or a thing, right? This is just like a final test almost showing up with this fixed cross energy being initiated. But on a collective level, this can also be like spiritual warfare, psychic attacks coming from on high, authority figures that are doing things in the public eye that are influencing the collective negatively, to where you got to safeguard against that as well. So just keep that in mind for a lot of you guys out. But with Radamanthus, in here, that's a divine judge energy to me. So I feel like a lot of things are going to be, judged according, like what you do in the dark is still going to be judged, basically. Okay, and then we get to the square to Leo, all right? And this is where we have Mars coming into the picture, all right? And Mars, this is really showing that your creative abilities, your creative gifts are really being highlighted right now. But see, there's almost like this little minor battle going on. I won't even say minor. I'll say like people utilizing their strengths, their weaknesses, but on a more darker end, I feel like this is people playing around with their spiritual gifts or their creative abilities in a way to manipulate other people. This could be you, this could be whoever, right? This could be anybody. So you want to have this level of spiritual awareness and knowledge to understand how to protect yourself, how to check in with yourself, how to know when you are being attacked, when you are protected, when you need to defend yourself. All of these things are important right now. There's a lot of things can be coming from unknown sources. This can be coming from the media, okay, to put it simply. But it also can be coming within your personal life, all right? But see, we also have karma here, right? And so that's, again, what I'm talking about with a lot of things that you've done in the dark, or a lot of things that people think they do in the dark and they get away with. This is a specific time where that's going to come out, to really much show you that you're wrong, or just to prove you wrong in that regard. If you think like, there have been a lot of people who have done the work and they are deserving of what they have gained, and there's a lot of resources that they have been able to now obtain, even as we get into this Taurus energy. And a lot of you guys are going to be coming into even more of that spiritual wealth, or more of that material wealth from spiritual work that you've done, right? And on yourself, for people, whatever. But that's what this Taurus energy is really about. It's about you really being in a more secure space within yourself, knowing what you've done in the past, right? You may have people or energies that are coming in who may have benefited negatively from you getting this win, from you getting this victory, from you getting this security in your life. That doesn't have anything to necessarily do with you, so be mindful of, just attacks and people trying to project on you, or just repressed energy showing back up in your life. Be, ready to alchemize that with your creative gifts, with your actions. Stand up for yourself and stand up for others who are also worthy and deserving. Also know that there's a higher power backing you as you're doing that. Now we get into the final square to the 11th house in Aquarius. This is where we have Pluto. Pluto has been in Aquarius for some time now, okay? So this is where, it's getting, very important to make sure that you have the right associations, groups, and affiliations around you. Making sure that the people that are around you are loyal to you. Making sure that you're loyal to the people who are loyal to you. All of these things are going to be important, because a lot of the things that are happening right now with this fixed cross require a certain level of integration, integrity, stability, security. And when you have a lot of people who are stable and secure within themselves, come together as a tribe, as a culture, as a whole, as a collective, there is this strong protection, spiritual protection, physical protection that can emerge. There's just this overall sense of stability and security that can feel very, that taps you into that Taurus. It's just security, stability, leisure, pleasure, enjoyment. You really get to enjoy yourself versus having to be on guard and having to really, deal with the more lower end of this Pluto energy, which could be, Pluto opposite Mars, just having to defend yourself and having to fight and having to ward off certain attacks. A lot of that is what a lot of people have already overcome. And so don't allow that to pull you back into that if you've already overcome that. Lastly, what I'll say as a tip, you guys, with this 11th house and the mask is being activated, just make sure that people are being loyal with you, who you've been loyal to. Also make sure that you're being loyal to those who have been loyal to you, because that's really important right now, and that'll tell you a lot. So without further ado, peace.